Hello, everyone. My name is Alex, and today we will be talking about technical debt and how to sell it to the team and management. Let's wait for a couple of minutes for people to join. Okay. The talk will last about 30 minutes, and you will have a chance to ask your questions. I already have some from the registration form. That's really fun. Yeah, just a few seconds to everyone get online. All right, let's get started. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. My name is Alex Svetkin, and I'm Principal Software Engineer at Microsoft Azure, working on core compute services. Previously, I led engineering teams at Yandex and vk.com, and today I would like to talk about technical debt. In all my previous roles, I have encountered technical debt as a common challenge, and I would like to share some insights and strategies on how to motivate teams and management to address it. I would be happy if I could change your perspective on technical debt and help you find ways to make progress with that. Before we dive in, a quick question. How many of you have worked on technical debt? Please send a plus sign or a reaction to the chat. Okay, let's wait for reactions for a bit. Okay, likely a delay. Yeah, okay, plus, minus, that's fine. All right. All right. Double plus. Cool. And thank you. So many of you are familiar, and still I feel that before we proceed, I need to briefly explain it a bit for those who are less familiar. Technical debt is a metaphor. It describes the trade-off when we choose to deliver a product or a feature quickly by cutting corners and making shortcuts, knowing that we might have to spend more time later to fix it. Just like financial debt, technical debt accumulates interest over time. And what is this future cost? It's slower development speed and harder maintenance. I need to note that this is a metaphor. It's not a perfect analogy. But this is useful because it helps us to communicate the risks and trade-offs involved in our technical decisions with the team and management. Initially, about 30 years ago, when Ward Cunningham coined the term, technical debt referred specifically to code-level shortcuts that made future changes harder. And now it has evolved into a broader concept. First of all, we usually count not only code structure issues, messy code, unmaintainable code, but also design flaws, test coverage gaps, outdated dependency, poor documentation, performance bottlenecks, and so on and so on. And also we started to consider everything that is just ugly in our software as technical debt, like outright bugs or broken pipelines. That's not what Mr. Cunningham intended originally, but it's the reality we live in. And the truth is, working on technical debt does not motivate well, if at all. By the way, have you ever seen job postings saying, come work to our company, we have zero legacy, no technical debt? And people use the absence of tech debt as a selling point because it's appealing. And this is completely understandable. The value of technical debt is in the past. You gained value by shipping quickly before, but now you have to pay the cost of that decision. The benefit is not visible now, only the cost is visible. And of course, I'm not the first one to notice this. Many have tried to address it and developed strategies. Still working on technical debt is a pain. I think this is because most strategies focus on the how or on the process, like the Boy Scout rule or allocating 10 or 20% of time for that work. These are good principles, but they answer a different question. Why? The why question seems just too obvious, so we skip it. Few people would seriously argue about why we should repay tech debt. You're not expected to say, I won't pay my debt. It would be considered irresponsible. It's just not socially acceptable to say that. And the real answer to the why is often unclear. Why should we fix this instead of that? Why now, not later, maybe never? Why us and not another team? Why not just ignore it? And it's our job as team leaders and senior engineers to clarify the why to start action. It's on us to make working on that meaningful and appealing. Just no one else will do that. And I would like to share some ideas for answering the why part of the question, what that worked for me. And I think they might work for you too. I also realized that for the team and management, you need different approaches. Still, we should always start with the team. To better answer why, let's talk about why not. Over the years, I collected a list of common excuses why engineers I worked with avoided working on tech debt. It's pointless and nobody cares. I'm just too busy with feature work. We are planning to rebuild that from scratch anyway, so why we should do that now? It's not my responsibility to do that, and it's just not fun. And all of these are valid points. I needed to learn how to address them. And as I mentioned before, we just count too many different things as a tech debt. So let's start with agreeing on what that means for your team. I can share a real life example. I thought that we had a good shared understanding in my team that we should address tech debt because its amount was just too high. Yet things were not moving smoothly. It turned out that, in my opinion, the most critical parts of that were different from my team, that my team thought. Specifically, they were frustrated with our pipeline complexity and test environment flakiness, while I was probably more concerned about code quality, security vulnerabilities in our outdated dependencies. And from their point of view, I was just a clueless manager asking them to do irrelevant things and didn't care about tech debt at all. So please start with aligning with your team. Be as specific as possible about what you call tech debt. You will need to invest your time into this. Um, you will, but you will not only have better understanding of tech debt in your team, but also it will show that you care about your team's concerns. And by that point, you may see that debt itself has little meaning because we count too many things for that. We should be always reframing it into different categories which have business or customer value. These categories shouldn't be formal. You can have whatever makes sense for your work. Usually, I call them buckets and I have something like this: quality, maintainability, flexibility, reliability, performance, and scalability. Also, security may be a thing, and the last one, but definitely not the least one, is engineering excellence. And always, instead of saying uh, we have to fix our flaky tests, you should add we have to fix our flaky tests to improve our delivery speed and reduce regression risk. Or maybe we need to update our dependencies to stay secure. And that's how you explain why that work matters. Um, this all may be still not convincing enough to answer the why me question. If you are a team leader, you can enforce it. You can say, please just do it because you're responsible for this service or project. You can probably say it, but that won't be motivating. And the only real solution I found here is to promote sense of ownership. Ownership is much more important than a formal responsibility. And ownership is all about right to make own decisions. So if you go that way, allow engineers to pick areas they care about. Give them freedom and autonomy to make decisions there and respect their choices. Eventually, they will be much more motivated and they will know better than you that should be done. I realize that this is much easier said than done, but in my experience, it works much better in the long run. And you'll see that despite all your efforts, some engineers dread tackling technical debt, no matter how you try. I once had a talk with an engineer in my team, one of the best engineers I have worked with. He told me that he completely understands the reasons why our tech debt should be cleared and that I shouldn't convince him more. But he won't do that anyway because he had different career goals. He was planning to focus on building world-class, bleeding-edge technological stuff. I tried to argue, but eventually decided to let it go. I would rather prefer to have a productive engineer working on different stuff than an unhappy engineer. If all your team opt in into working on technical debt, you may be lucky. But if not, don't blame it on them or on yourself too much or try to pressure more. It's just not everyone's favorite cup of tea. Instead, focus on people who are motivated by that work. Help them to do their work and let them lead others by example. And also, a few words about some specific scenarios. If you have bit-sized, tiny, well-formalized tasks which can be distributed among many engineers, think about hackathon-style event with small rewards, sometimes called bugathon or fixathon. We once had to replace more than 1,000 occurrences of our domain name in the code. It was just a hard-coded string, literal. No one was expecting it could ever change. And when that moment came, and we decided to replace it with a parameter, a regular find and replace couldn't quite cut it because of some corner cases. We needed human attention, and we didn't have AI agents at that time. The problem was that not a single person wanted to work on that task. So we decided to have a fixathon. Every engineer could join, and many actually participated. We not only fixed that, but also had much fun. And another one, sometimes incremental fixes are just not enough. You may be in a situation when you understand that the existing solution is fundamentally flawed, and no amount of refactoring will make it right, or it would just take more time than building a new one. This is the most pleasant way to reduce technical debt and promote ownership. Unfortunately, it rarely works, and it often creates more problems than solves. You have to be extra careful with that. So do not rewrite it if it's being changed frequently or it's just messy code. Messy code is not a reason to start a massive total rewrite. And rewrite only components which have clear established boundaries. But in other cases, do that. That's a bold decision. Now, let's talk about working with management. Sorry. By this moment, you should have established support with your team. And talking with management is way different than talking with the team. And in my experience, it also varies a lot between different companies. Still, some things remain the same. Most importantly, management cares about outcomes, delivery speed, customer satisfaction, revenue, risk reduction, and so on. They are not usually interested too much about your internal team processes unless these directly impact business outcomes. There are different perspectives on how to approach management about technical debt. Should you ask for permission to work on it or just to do it and inform later? In my opinion, you are responsible for engineering decisions and you know better what needs to be done there. You should explain that you are integrating that work into regular delivery, not asking for explicit approval for every fix. You must be ready to justify your decisions by data and clear reasoning thought. And how to be transparent and be able to justify your work with management. You already have nice buckets for that work. Now you should enrich them with some metrics because management loves data. So instead of saying we have to fix our flaky tests, which means nothing to management, say engineers spend n hours weekly dealing with flaky tests, and fixing them will reduce that number by X%. Or say X% of customer reported bugs in the last month are due to regression. That's why we need to increase our test coverage. And that's how you do that. And I know that justifying tech debt work feels awful. You have to prove again and again that your team is not slacking, but doing important work. This is demotivating for you. And my idea is that management may very well enjoy the benefits when tech debt is created. Think about faster delivery, but they are just not fully aware of it. Raise this awareness by highlighting the increment of debt when you make such trade-off decisions. When explaining your work on tech debt, try to link it to the recent decisions when it was created. For example, when we rushed the last release, we normally skipped all performance optimizations. This led to X% increase in the response time, which our customers noticed. To address this, we need to invest time in optimizing the bottlenecks. And that's how you may break that loop. And the last one, not all technical debt is worth repaying. This is not a financial advice, by the way. Sometimes you need to recognize then to stop investing in a particular area of tech debt. Please skip it if you see at least two of those three factors are true. You feel that you have to imagine the impact to justify the work, or upcoming change will obsolete that part, and these changes are already being made by someone, and it just works and is rarely changed, so you don't care about maintainability because it just works. And yeah, you can easily skip it if you feel that it's not worth it. And that's it. The brief summary of my talk. Address why before how. Then start with agreeing with your team. Always try to reframe that work into categories with business value. Be transparent with management and use data to support your decisions. And know when to stop. And that's all. Thank you all for your attention. There are some useful links, links to the slides and names of books I used to, well, learn about my work on technical debt to improve that. And finally, yeah, some QR codes for feedback. And thank you all again. And thank you, Andersen, for this opportunity. Now I'll get back to the questions. Okay. I'll start from the end. How do we balance between the amount of tech debt we repay in one go, the amount of modules we want to rewrite, and the amount of testing it involves afterwards? Oh, okay. I think there is no one general answer for that. There is no silver bullet. And probably one of the most important parts would be amount of feature work you need to deliver. Next one, in a successful legacy scale-up, how do you approach solving complexity and technical debt? Okay, that's a cool question because I work in a successful legacy scale-up. You can't really stop delivering features, and you can really stop the production to make big refactorings. The idea that we used is to separate or isolate some parts of the monolith we had. Maybe that's not your case, but still. And we were able to replace them standalone new microservices. So clear boundaries and rewriting parts that are not frequently changed, but still they require improvements. I feel this is a bit one-way communication because you can hear me and I can only read your questions in the chat. So probably it's lagging. Okay, I have a question from the sign-up form. Here's the one. I'll post it here. Okay, I can post it because it's just too long. So the question was, when selling a tech debt initiative to non-technical business leaders, what framework do you find most effective? Is it better to quantify the cost of inaction using internal metrics like developer velocity and team morale, or to tie directly to lagging product KPIs like reliability, performance, and customer reported bugs? I think that using external metrics which have clear connection to business or customer experience is preferable. Unfortunately, you may not always have them. But if you have them, you should stick to them. The question from the chat, is your proposed strategy for reducing those debts constantly working? So if I understand that correctly, does it work in every case? I would say yeah, because you definitely have to answer why you are working on tech debt. So it's not a framework. It's more like ad hoc suggestions and tricks and that kind of stuff. For frameworks, there are some described frameworks to address technical debt, like directory of technical trade-offs, where when you write down every technical decision with clear understanding what has been done, what debt was created, and when to resolve that, and that you can call framework. But still, this doesn't answer the question why we should have that strategy. And even if we have that strategy, why should we follow that? Because just why should we care? Okay, I'll switch back to the pre-submitted questions. How to engage HR if peaceful discussions didn't help? Okay, that's a good one. I don't think that's about tech debt specifically. Well, I don't think that HR will really help you discussing technical trade-offs, but if things just go out of hand, yeah, please be respectful to your colleagues and try to be reasonable and don't do anything violent. That's just a rule of thumb. But still, definitely, HR won't help you solving technical problems. Okay, I have another one. I'm launching a startup to help legacy scale-ups tackle tech debt and regain control. Will you be open to connect and discuss my approach? Yes, I'm open. Please reach out me on LinkedIn. Yeah, I would love to talk about this problem. All right. Questions, comments? So probably no more questions for now. So, well, Thank you everyone for attending. That was a pleasure to talk about this problem I've been working on so many years. And also, please feel free to reach me on LinkedIn. And again, thank you for Andersen for organizing this opportunity.